Good morning, everyone, and welcome to church. We're so glad that you're joining us online. My name is Patrick Smalley. I'm the Digital Ministry Manager here at Colonial Church. As many of you may already know, in December, we voted to change our name officially to Meeting House Church. We will officially be making that transition later today when we have our annual meeting after our Sunday services. We will begin at 11 a.m., and we hope that you can join us either in person or via Zoom. A link to more info can be found below in the description. Now, what does that mean for you, practically speaking? Well, just as a heads up, we're going to be updating our social media accounts, our email addresses, our YouTube page, our website to reflect our new name, Meeting House Church. So when you go to pull up those things, especially your YouTube page next weekend as you join us again, hopefully, be mindful of that transition. You'll be looking for Meeting House Church, not Colonial Church. Now, as we're getting ready to start this morning, send us a message in the chat and let us know where you're joining us from. From all of us here at Colonial, very soon to be Meeting House Church, welcome to church.
Well, good morning. Hi. Hi to everyone online and to everyone in person. We're so glad to be together this morning. As we start gathering this morning, we're already gathered, I guess, but as we continue to gather, there's a couple questions that will be on the screen that we'd encourage you, if you're at home, grab some coffee, take a deep breath and settle in and think about the questions, talk about them with folks you're with. If you're here in person, there's no couch to settle into, but you can get coffee. And then you can feel free to talk a little bit about the two questions with folks who are here in the room. Maybe introduce yourself to someone you don't know. We'll come back together in about 5 minutes. 5 minutes, okay? So get coffee, get settled. We'll see you back here. Think about these questions.
Good morning again, everyone. I'm Mark Patrick. I'm the care pastor here at Meeting House Church. This is a big day in the life of our church. We're finishing out 75 years as Colonial Church, and we're starting the next 75 as Meeting House Church. So, yes. We have a fascinating scripture today. It's from Acts 2, the first 21 verses. It's about this extraordinary miracle where the disciples started preaching and teaching about the wonderful things that Jesus had done, and they found that they could speak in other languages. Now, whatever the details of that story were like, underneath is the theme for today is that all people are welcome. There is nothing about you or anyone else that limits God from loving you, caring about you, and helping you understand the things that you need to know about Him and about the Spirit and about faith. So we have this thought that all are here, not only here, but in the New Testament, all were there. People from 20 different countries and areas, and they all heard the gospel, and all were able to hear it and understand it and respond to it. You know, a number of years ago, I traveled with Arthur Rauner to various places in Africa. And one of the things that Arthur was a master at was presenting a relaxed presence with whoever he was talking to. Whatever country they were from, whatever background, whatever language, if he had a translator. But he would be able to listen to people, accept them, welcome them, and then eventually invite them to follow Jesus. He had that ability. Who has that ability in your life? They are relaxed, they're not pressuring, but they're inviting you, and you're able to talk with them and learn more about faith. There's nothing about us, any of us, that limits God's ability to talk to us and speak to us. And there's nothing about the location you're in, no matter how far away it is, that limits God's ability to reach you and invite you to follow Jesus Christ. There's a scripture in Psalm 139, if you put that slide up, please. Here it comes. The psalmist says, "Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you're there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you're there. If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limit of the sea, even there your hand will lead me. Your right hand will hold me fast." There's nothing about me and there's nothing about my location that limits God's ability to speak to me, connect with me, guide me. So that's what we want to keep in mind this morning. Question for you. Who does that for you? Who has done that for you? And I invite you to talk among the people at your table. Who helps you feel comfortable listening about God, responding to God, and helps you understand God in a way that you can respond? So who has that been for you through the years, and who is it right now? So share those thoughts with each other, please.
Sex is obscene. We've got it twisted in this lucid dream. Baptizing boundaries, excluding sin, divided by difference, sexuality and scheme. So we can heal each other,
fear each other. We can build these walls between each other, baby, blow by blow, and brick by brick. Keep yourself locked in, yeah, so we can hate each other, fear each other. We can build these walls between each other, baby, blow by blow, and brick by brick. Keep yourself locked in, whoa, maybe we should love somebody. Maybe we can care a little more. So maybe we should love somebody instead of polishing the bones of holy war.
always holy, and he's obscene. Don't you give life to this beautiful dream. This peace and love ain't so far. If we nurse our wounds before they scar, nurse our wounds before they scar.
Break these walls between each other, baby, blow by blow, brick by brick. Keep yourself open, yeah, we can heal each other and feel each other. We can break these walls between each other, baby, blow by blow, and brick by brick. Keep yourself open, Maybe we can love somebody. Yeah, maybe we can care a little more. So maybe we should love somebody instead of holy war.
Woo. Thank you. Hi. Good morning. It's so good to be with you. I'm Sarah, and I'm one of the ministers here. And you would think that we might have had a strategic plan around this morning and the theme for today, and given that it's our annual meeting and we're changing our name officially today, you would think maybe we had decided to start a new sermon series and start it in the book of Acts with the birth of the church. We were so strategic. We didn't plan that actually intentionally. It was just like, hey, after Easter, it's our next series. What should we do? We should talk about the church on mission. And we should start it where the church is birthed, which is Acts chapter 2, which we're going to talk about today. And it just happens to be annual meeting, and it happens to be the day that it's our new church. And so I think like maybe God's Spirit had something to do with, and is maybe more intelligent than we are. So I'm so glad you're all here today. Thanks for being a part of worship. I love that song and the invitation about what if love was the thing for which we're known. We're going to go right now into our time for God's garden. So I'm going to invite Jane and all of our humans who are younger than like 5th grade and younger, right? I was going to say younger than me, but that like allows for more people than I mean, you can go to God's garden, but here you go. Thanks, Jane. Somewhere.
Okay, kids, if you're ready to come up for God's Garden, and it looks like some of the kids from the other service are here too to join us. Okay, yeah, whenever you guys are ready. Hi, Liza. Do you want to stand over here? Do you want to stand in front? Stand in front.
Everybody.
Big round of applause for us and the band. Thank you. Okay, kids, before we go, we have to say goodbye, church, on the count of 3. So 1, 2, 3. Goodbye, church. And then church really loud, say have fun, kids. So 1, 2, 3. Have fun, kids. Thank you. Okay, Liza, where do you want to go? Do you want to go out that way? You gonna follow everyone?
Let's see, if your name is Cheryl, Rich, Elgin, Andrew, or Poppy, would you please come forward? And I talked to you beforehand. You might have that name, but it might not be you. So, as I said just a few minutes ago, the verse and passage that is centering us in our theme today is from the book of Acts. For those of you who don't know, and for those of you who do a refresher, in the Bible, there's the Gospels, which tell the story about Jesus. It's Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Luke is the book of the Bible that was written collectively with Luke and Acts. Luke is about the story of Jesus. Acts is the story about the Spirit and the birth of the church and what happens as the church begins to be born together. And as we talked about and as Mark set up for us, it's about how all of us in our voices, that there is a diversity and everyone gets to hear the good news in their own language, in their own skin. And so we thought we'd have some folks read us our passage that we're going to read along on the screens together.
Everyone got together on the day of Pentecost. Suddenly, the sound of rushing wind blew through the house in which they were gathered. Something that looked like tongues on fire appeared and rested on each of them. They were all filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak other languages as she enabled them to do so. Now there were devout people living in Jerusalem from every nation under heaven.
On account of all the noise, a crowd gathered and was puzzled to hear their native language being spoken. Amazed and astonished, they asked, "Are all these who are speaking Galileans, uneducated people? How do they know all these languages? Parthians, Medes, Elamites, and residents of Mesopotamia, Judea, Cappadocia, Pontus, and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, Egypt, and other parts of Libya belonging to the Cyrene, and visitors from Rome, both Jews and proselytes."
Yeah. Right?
I'm glad I didn't have that one. Cretians and Arabs, in our own languages, we hear them speaking about the wonders of God. Everyone was amazed and confused and said to one another, "What does this mean?" But others mocked them and said, "Whatever, they're probably just drunk." Then Peter stood up with the 11 other disciples and said to everyone, Dear Judeans and everyone who lives in Jerusalem, listen up. No one is drunk. It's only 9 a.m. No, this is what the prophet Joel was talking about when he said,
In the last days, God says that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your children shall prophesy, and your young people shall have visions, and your old people shall dream dreams. Even upon the most ostracized people of any and all genders, in those days I will pour out my spirit, and they shall prophesy.
And I shall show signs in the heaven above and signs on earth below, blood and fire and smoky mist. The sun shall be turned to darkness, the moon to blood, before the coming of my great and glorious day. Then everyone who calls on the name of God shall be saved.
Yay. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Thank you. Well, thanks so much for reading that. And now as we go into this next song, I want you to imagine, play on words. I want you to imagine those first days of what it might have been or felt like for everyone gathered to hear the good news in their own language. And this morning, as we sing this song and you think about and imagine the world that you believe in, think about what it's felt like when you've heard good news in your own skin, in your own language. And then let's together as a community sing these words together, imagining a world in which the Spirit has come and God's kingdom is here. So let's sing together.
There's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell beyond us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people
Well, thanks. So thinking about today and knowing that there was a community reflection, I thought of many of you in terms of who to ask to share. And I realized that there was actually no way that I could slice the demographics perfectly to represent everyone. And so I passed out to you, if you're gathered here in this space, a sheet, and I'll explain that to you in a minute. If you're worshiping with us online, there is a note that says where I'm from and a link where you can pull it up the document. Because what I thought we should actually do is spend a little bit of time thinking about our own stories, about our own identities, and what it means that we are the gathered church. That each of us, in our own skin and with our own stories, are part of what it means and what it looks like when the Spirit breathes. That as much as it's important for us to be able to say that representation matters of language, of culture, of gender, of background, of race, there's so much diversity when you actually consider that every one of us has a different story and identities and etc. And that's part of the beauty of the early church and what it reminds us is that when the Spirit shows up, the Spirit isn't an exclusive Spirit. The Spirit doesn't say, oh, only this group of people gets to hold the corner on God. The Spirit blows open the doors, and every single person both hears and speaks good news. And so this room gathered, the folks gathered who are with us online, and every single person is another manifestation of the beauty of who God is and what God desires for our world. When I was contemplating and discerning if I was going to come to this church, when there was a job opening here, one night I had a dream. Some of you have heard this. And it was a dream that the Spirit was under the waters, because for those of you under the building in the water, because for those of you who don't know, we actually literally are built on pylons and we're on a wetland. Yay. And because you can't keep the Spirit down, in my opinion, and I think Spirit and water have something to do with one another. If you don't believe me, go read the Bible. Anyway, so the Spirit in the water bubbled up, and it whooshed through the hallways of this building, and the doors blew open. And I had a sense, Sarah, that is what I want to do in this community. Will you come be a part of it? Today is one of those Spirit whoosh days. And each of our voices and each of your stories are part of that whoosh. So I'm going to invite you to take a few minutes. And I know this might be a little uncomfortable, but if you've ever done Mad Libs, I trust you can do this, okay? What it is it's a template for a poem called Where I'm From. Once upon a time, a poet laureate from Virginia developed this as a way to go around the state and hear the diversity of voices from the people and to be able to share that. And thinking about the early church and this church, all of our voices matter. This is inspired by Where I'm From George L. Line. And basically what you do is you take the little blanks here, follow the instruction in the parentheses. Don't stress, there's no wrong answers. This is your story. And then you just fill this in. Now here's the deal. If you don't want to fill it in, that is okay too. I'm not the fill-in police, okay? Then instead, maybe I'd invite you to consider, what are your dreams? Think about your story, et cetera, et cetera. So we're just gonna have, Matt, if we could have some music just play and chill in the background, and we're gonna take some time for us to work on this. I will note, you will not be required to share this with people. You will have an invitation if you want to share anything as part of our breathe out time. But again, you do not have to share, so you don't need to censor. If you're sitting in the back and you want to go up to one of the high top tables during this time, you can do that. Okay, so take some time, let's fill this out and think about where you're from and how does where you're from represent part of how God's Spirit is at work in the world. Let's take some time. 90-second warning. 90-second warning, we'll come back together. Okay, and if you're not finished, you can either keep writing right now or you can pause, whatever you'd like to do. I'm just going to read you a couple lines. I am from bottles for baby, from pillows and rugs. I am from the White House with blue shutters of peace. I am from lilacs, the spruce, whose long limbs I remember as if they were my own. I don't know yet what you wrote in yours. I'd welcome if anyone wants to share. I love reading those. Yeah? You want to read some of yours? Yeah, come up here. That'd be great. I love it, yes. There, it should be on.
This was super fun and challenging.
Great.
I'll read the last, kind of that last
Great.
fourth. So I'm from love and hard work, and you are my sunshine. I'm from shared conversation over good food. I'm from Minnesota and Germany, Ireland, Africa, and likely more too. From grits and sauerkraut, from Vivian and Ella, to tenacious, stylish grandmothers who are boldly Christian, who leave behind artifacts of love on my nightstand and memories of unconditional love in my heart.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Pat. That's awesome. Thank you. So thanks for sharing that. And just want to say, what does it mean that you think about this passage in Acts? And you think about all these folks who are gathered. And that in their own skin, as they had gathered, that the Spirit came in and that tongues rested on each of them. And people from Edina and St. Louis Park today, and Hopkins, and Tallahassee, or wherever you're from, each heard the good news in their own language, and they spoke it too. What do you dream? What are your visions and hopes? What does it look like to hear and speak the good news in your own skin? Okay. I want to invite you now to actually turn to some folks. If there's just a couple of you, if you want to grab other people, you can share a little bit about how this was. If you want to share some of your piece one with another, invite you to do that as well, and we'll just take some time to do that. How was this for you? Or what does it look like to hear good news in your own skin? Okay? Okay. Let's take a few minutes to do that for our breathe out. I'm going to sit. Can I? So take about 90 seconds. And also, if there's a couple other folks who would be willing to share part of theirs up front, I would love to invite folks to do that. If you're interested, raise your hand and let me know. Is there anyone who would want to share a little piece of theirs? Rick? Oh no, I'm just, your in-laws volunteered you. Okay. Okay, let's then, thanks for doing this and for sharing. Just really appreciate that. And again, just want to invite us as we sing this last song together to be reminded that when the Spirit shows up and when the Spirit breathes and blows and bears the church, that it looks like each of us rising more fully into our skin and joining together with God's Spirit to make a world in which the love of Christ is for everyone. So feel free, if you'd like. Some of you may have heard this song before. If you feel like you can't sit and you need to stand up for this one, you do you, right? Do you for this song. If not for Bob, do it for Jesus. Okay? Do whatever you like. So, folks, if you want to stand up, you can. If you want to sit, you can do that too. I'm going to stand, though. Let's sing this together.
One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. Hear the children crying, one love. Hear the children crying, one heart. Give thanks and praise to the Lord, and I will feel alright. Whoa, let them all pass all their dirty remarks. One love. There is one question I really love to ask. Is there a place for the hopeless sinner who has hurt all mankind just to save his own belief? One love, one love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. I see what's in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. Alright, let's praise the Lord, and I will feel alright. Oh, let's get together to fight this holy Armageddon. So when the man comes, there will be no doom. I pity on those whose chances grow thinner. There ain't no hiding place from the Father of creation, singing one love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. I see what's in the beginning, one love. So shall it be in the end? Alright, and praise to the Lord, and I will feel alright. One more time, let's get together and feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright. Thank you.
Well, through the years, I've been what I call a binge listener. And one summer, lots of years ago, when my children were young, this was a song that I binge listened to. So they had to put up with us rolling the windows down, cranking the volume way up. I'm not much of a singer, but there are some words that anyone can remember. So they were stuck with me and stuck with that song for a whole summer. So that brings back good memories. Thank you for that. Hey, thank you for coming today. We have a lot to be thankful for, and we have a lot to offer one another, and so we're doing that this morning. We have our annual meeting today at 11 o'clock, right in the meeting house. That's been called Meeting House for a long time. We will be called Meeting House starting today. So, join us for the annual meeting, vote on the first Meeting House budget, be together and just affirm who we are and what we're doing here together. Elaine, help me. Are you here? If she were here, she would say so. Since she's not, let me tell you that our ministry of the month is for homelessness and people struggling with those kinds of very real needs. In the Connection Corner, you can find out ways that you can learn about that, but also ways that you can help with that. And one of the things that we want to do more and more is put our faith into action, into caring about one another. So check out the Connection Corner and learn about homelessness, insecurity, and that kind of thing. Well, go in God's Spirit. Listen to what God is saying to you. Welcome people that you meet, whatever your differences are. Step outside of your comfort zone and enjoy the adventure. Okay? Let's go. All right. Peace. Amen.